entertainment. It was usually less crowded than the cinema near the tube station, and besides that I liked the way the Odeon looked. A brick building with a rounded turret-like entrance, it had always looked a bit like a castle in a fairy tale to me. I blamed my Irish blood for these flights of fancy. Like the rest of the city, the Odeon was doing its best to soldier on. That meant that shows were still running, though they generally closed in time for us to get home before the nightly air raids. We'd had several bombs dropped in Hendon, but thus far the Odeon stood unscathed. I was learning, as we all were, I suspected, that it was important to enjoy things while we could and not think too much about the future. I reached the cinema, purchased a ticket and slipped into my favourite seat near the back. It seemed I wasn't the only one who'd decided on an hour or two of escape. There was a decent-sized audience this afternoon. I noticed several uniformed young men with their girls. Felix wouldn't be here until halfway through the film, but that was all right. We'd seen it before. They were showing an older film, Bachelor Mother, starring Ginger Rogers making a go of it without Fred Astaire. It was light-hearted and amusing, just the sort of thing I was in the mood for. Of course, there were the newsreels to watch first. If the movie to come would be a distraction, the newsreel was a grim reminder of what I was trying to be distracted from. It was hard to see scenes of torpedoes exploding near battleships in the Channel, or the destruction caused by battle, or soldiers marching away from home to do their bit. It always made me think of my cousin Toby, who'd been missing since the Battle of Dunkirk. With each passing day, with no word from the army that he'd been listed as a prisoner, it became more likely that he was dead. As I usually did when thinking melancholy thoughts about Toby, I pushed the thoughts away, determined to keep hoping until there was some proof that no hope remained. Focusing on the screen through eyes that threatened to cloud with tears, I concentrated on the film and soon found myself caught up in the plight of Polly Parish, a young woman mistaken for the mother of an orphaned child with various uproarious results. The film had been playing for a short while when I noticed a shadowy movement at the edge of my row, and then someone sat down in the seat directly beside me. I turned, smiling to greet Felix. He was here earlier than I'd expected. My smile faltered when I realised it was not Felix. It was instead Major Ramsey, the intelligence officer with whom my family and I had aligned to make use of our safe-cracking skills for king and country. The last time I'd seen the Major had been the morning after the second night of the Blitz, a night in which we'd robbed a bank and caught a ring of spies. Though I'd thought of him frequently over the intervening days, a cinema was one of the last places I would have expected to encounter him. "What are you doing here?" I asked, rudely forgoing a greeting. "Good afternoon, Miss McDonnell," he replied, his eyes on the screen. "You don't suppose I enjoy Ginger Rogers films?" "No." I expected the Major had neither the time nor the temperament to enjoy pictures, but if he did, he'd have gone to see one weightier than this. A war film, perhaps, something with gravitas. We sat in silence for a few moments as the film played. I waited for him to speak, the possible reasons for his unexpected appearance darting through my brain, but he didn't seem inclined to do so. "You didn't come here to see this picture?" I pressed at last. "No. I need to speak to you. I went to the house and Mrs. Dean told me where you'd gone." Of course she had. Macy had a bit of a crush on the Major, and she was forever trying to push the two of us together. As fond as she was of Felix, in her eyes he couldn't compete with an army major who was nephew to an earl. "As my time is limited, I sought you out," he finished. "Do we need to step outside?" I asked. "No, this is as good a place as any. In fact, casual situations such as this one are an ideal way to pass along information. I don't want to draw more attention to you than necessary."